even just clicking on this podcast to listen is making a step in the right direction and a step to healing, no matter how long it takes you. A year ago, I was an absolute wreck. Even if I don't feel it, I look at myself in the mirror and I tell myself I'm beautiful. I even looking at the parts of stuff I hate. Hot girl walks are my saving grace. I have hugged a tree. I don't know how people are going to feel about that. It's extremely good to realise what's benefiting you and what's not when you're in a bad place. Now, this might be controversial. Trash TV, it's my best friend. The next one is an exciting one. Use it as an opportunity to think, this is me bettering my mental health and having fun. This is how I went from having panic attacks nearly every day to going weeks without them. But you need to move. If you are only listening, I urge you to watch this right now. So for the first time ever, I was like, let me set up in bed. I feel like it'll be really comfortable. I'm really bloated and I'm in quite a lot of pain today. And the dog has completely bulldozed in. They do say, don't they, in like the professional world, not to work with animals. Honestly, at least Albie's happy. That's all that matters in this world, is if Albie's okay. You are listening to a conversation with Erin, with me, your host, Erin. This is our safe space to have a conversation about anything, everything, and all in between. There is no conversation that is off limits, so let's get into it. Okay, I'm gonna say this and you're all gonna hate me. I am so ready for autumn. I can't quite stress that enough. I would also like to preface, I'm in a completely different filming spot, and my issue with it, when I was setting up, it looked like I was setting up to film an adult movie or adult content, and I was just like, it looks intense. Like, if somebody walked into my house right now and walked up the stairs, for one, why are you here? But also they would be like, whoa, what is she doing? Let me subscribe to that. Me in a hoodie with a duvet over me in the middle of summer with a hot light on me, no windows open, sweating. So I don't think it'd be very cute for OnlyFans, but like, if that's what they wanted, they could get it. But yeah, the whole setup is a little bit intense, I'm not gonna lie. But I do like the idea that we're just sitting having a little bit of a chat, and it's very relaxed, and I feel very relaxed. So it's good vibes. I am thinking of getting a new bed frame because this one's really old, but also it just doesn't fit the vibe. Like, if you look at this bed and then compare it to like my rattan chair that you see in my other episodes, you'd be like, yeah, the vibes don't match. Like, the whole room needs a decoration. It needs to be decorated. As I was saying, I am so ready for autumn. I don't know if you could tell with me in this big jumper. I just think that like I'm over the half-hearted summer. If summer was like summering, I think I would be sad for autumn. And I'm not thinking about winter, because winter, like after December, so like once Christmas and New Year's out, I get like severe depression. I go into my slump. I don't thrive. However, we're not thinking about that, just thinking about autumn. I'm like, yes, I'm so ready for it. I think because the weather's giving autumn vibes most of the time, but it is actually sunny today, but I'm just not in my summer vibe anymore. Summer had its chance and it's blown it. So yeah, I'm just like, I've moved on with my life. It's sad though, isn't it? Like, it concerns me that we've had such a bad summer, because I think the world is so clearly being affected by global warming now. And in some places it's so extremely hot. Here it's been very extremely wet. And it just is concerning. Like, it concerns me so much. I'm not going to lie to you all. I'm going to be very honest with that. So I try not to think about it. And in my head I'm like, well, if it's winter, like, it'll be less obvious that global warming's happening. But I think that's very naive and stupid of me to say and think. But summer just scares me now, because it's either like it's an extreme weather no matter what that is, and that's terrifying. It's a terrifying thought. Do you know what I saw the other day? And I was like, oh my bloody hell. They do kids Fitbits now. But I don't mean like children's, like 8-year-olds Fitbits. I mean like babies have got this like toy, like for like toddlers, like a fake Fitbit toy. And this kid had it in the advert of like the toy, had it around its ankle and was like, hit your step goal. What? I was just like, surely not. And then I did some research. Fisher Price do a set of toys for babies, and it's a protein shake, teething toy, and a dumbbell rattle. I don't know how I feel about it. Because it comes, for me, that comes under the whole giving toy guns to kids. No. My child will never be allowed to play with a toy gun. No, there's no need for them to. If they're of an age where they choose to join the army, that's their choice. But I'm not instilling in them to shoot other people. Apologies if you are a parent and your child does have that toy. But when I'm like, why are we instilling in kids? Like, a healthy living's one thing, but I just think it just doesn't sit right with me. And maybe that's because I have an eating disorder, so I think about it slightly differently. But it just concerns me that children are like growing up with the whole 10,000 step thing. Like, I didn't know you were supposed to hit 10,000 steps, even though that's a made up concept by a marketing campaign in China years ago. Anyway, so it's not even scientific fact. But I didn't even know of that until I was like 14, maybe older. So I don't want children to grow up like feeling pressured to hit the gym and stuff like that. Like, protein shakes and hitting the gym and lifting weights doesn't make you healthy. It's just a sport. Like, it's no different to trying to buying your child like a treadmill. Okay, that's a little bit extreme, but you know what I mean. Like, instill in your children healthy eating and a healthy relationship with exercise. But to me, it's just trying to force something on your child. I don't know. I know I'm probably deep in it, but it just really didn't sit right with me. It was more the branding than anything else. It was just not, it wasn't a vibe. I don't know. I'm not a parent, so I feel like I'm going to have parents come at me. Like, I get parenting is the hardest job in the world, and there's a reason I'm not a parent now. One, because I don't have anyone to procreate with, but also clearly because it's just me and my dog in my bed. But also, like, even if I did that, I'm too selfish. I've got more lessons to learn in life yet. But my personal thing, I just think it's people, and I don't even blame parents, it's companies trying to profit off of trends that adults are involved in. The trends are for adults for a reason. It just doesn't sit right with me. The last couple of days, I'm not gonna lie, like, this is gonna be a bit of a change of tune. I felt so sad about my PCOS. I don't know why. I've ordered, but it should be coming today. I really hope they don't come while I'm filming. I think it's Free Her Soul. I've spoke about it on the pod before, I'm sure of it. They do like PCOS supplements, and I constantly see them recommended. I obviously need to be very careful what supplements and stuff I take, because some can really irritate my stomach. But I'm really hoping they work. I'm gonna take them because it's coming up to 2.5 years since I last had a period. It's just, this is gonna sound maybe dramatic, but the more time goes by that I haven't had a period, I almost feel like someone's saying to me, well, the less likely you're going to be able to have children naturally. And very much like, say, I might not be able to have children like naturally, in terms of you have sex and then a child comes from having sex, you know what I mean? Like, no, I don't mean like with my body. No, I mean with my body, like, yeah. with no interventions. There we go. Everyone knows where babies come from. With no interventions. But it doesn't mean that saying that doesn't like feel like a stake through my heart. I say it because I think it's my way of trying to come to terms with it. It is upsetting. It's really upsetting. Like the thought of, I don't know, just not being able to do that. It just breaks my heart. And obviously there are other ways. I've always wanted to adopt. Always, like if I was in a position to have a couple of my own children and also adopt, like that would be the dream. And obviously you've got things like IVF and there's fertility treatment and there's lots of different avenues. And obviously I'm not at a stage in my life where I'm thinking of having children right now. But I also feel like I need to be more in tune with my body in terms of making sure I'm fertile, if that's something I want. Because I am 21, I'm not 17 or 16. Like in the next 10 years hopefully, or in the next at least 15 years, I want to have a child, and I need to start making sure my body is preparing for that, considering I'm somebody who will have more trouble potentially. I don't know, it's just something I've been feeling down about. But I also think that's because I have been feeling a lot more anxious lately. There wasn't a podcast last Friday, and I'm so sorry for that. But it was literally because I was such an anxious mess last week. Like, I haven't been that anxious for ages. I barely spoke to anybody. I went really in myself. I kind of just binged watched reality TV for the whole week. Like, I was really unproductive. I was just really not thriving at all. I do have anxiety disorder, so I know that sometimes it's going to raise its head than other times. And I was like, I wonder why. But then I stopped my steroids a couple of weeks before that. And last time I stopped my steroids, I was not thriving. I'm okay. Albie's like, what was that noise? Can you hear him? I was saying something. Yeah, the last time I stopped my steroids, I was quite depressed and anxious. I didn't leave my bedroom for weeks. I didn't go to sixth form for weeks. Like, I was in a really bad way, and I think it was stopping my steroids that triggered that the last time, because when I felt low because of my mental health since then, it's been a much different feeling to that, almost like that chemical imbalance of just feeling just like you don't want to be here and not really knowing why. Like, I didn't even feel sad, I just felt numb. And last week felt a little bit like that, but I was so anxious. So I think it might have been that, because I'm feeling back on track now. But that brings me on to today's topic. Are you excited, Albie? We are talking about how I manage my anxiety. So how do you manage your anxiety? Just to quickly interrupt the podcast, I'm so sorry. I know this is so annoying, but 90% of you aren't subscribed, and I know a lot of you do not follow on Spotify and haven't rated on Spotify. So if you can please, if you're on YouTube, subscribe, and also like if you want to, that would be nice. But also if you're on Spotify, if you could follow, then you'll just know when I've uploaded a new podcast, because I'm also doing mini episodes randomly. I'll just drop a mini episode, so it's always good to know. And if you could also rate on Spotify, that would be amazing. Like, that would be so good. There's always a comment section as well below any of my uploads, whether that's on YouTube or Spotify. And also I have a TikTok and an Instagram. There'll be links below, but also you can just search up A Conversation with Erin and they will appear for you. I've done a previous episode of what my anxiety disorder looks like, a bit about anxiety disorders, so that is one of the first episodes. I think it's episode 2, so it might be worth checking that out if you don't know much about anxiety. But if you come on here for tips yourself, you will know what you go through, and I'm sending you so much love. Even just clicking on this podcast to listen is making a step in the right direction and a step to healing, no matter how long it takes you. It has taken me a year of therapy a year of constant work to get to a place where I can live most days free of severe and like crippling anxiety. I'm at a place now where I obviously feel anxious pretty much every day. If I'm doing something out of the ordinary, I have intrusive thoughts and things like that. But I'm in a place now where I can push myself outside my comfort zone and not have a panic attack. I can leave the house without having a panic attack. So I feel like I'm in a very good place with my anxiety compared to what I was a year ago. A year ago, I was an absolute wreck. If I'm quite honest, I was having a panic attack nearly every day, like a severe panic attack. So I'm just going to show you my tips of what I do to manage my anxiety, because I never think I will live anxiety free. Anxiety is an emotion anyway, and we're all going to feel anxious at points. I'm just somebody who has always, even before my kind of episode last year, I was somebody who always had felt heightened anxiety in normal situations. So I was always predisposed to it. But I now manage it. So this is how I went from having panic attacks nearly every day to going weeks without them. My first main tip is how I speak to myself. I'm very kind to myself, and that's also how I treat myself. If I'm having a really anxious day, I'm obviously very fortunate to be in a position at the minute where I'm not working, so I can just potato out? I don't know, but I could just really chill out on the sofa and not go out, unless obviously it's walking out in the morning. I know that will change when I work, which I'm still applying for. Nobody wants me still. But it's also how I speak to myself. I'm very much aware of what I'm saying to myself now. I never say I do say I have anxiety, but I try not to, because I'm not anxiety. I don't have anxiety. Anxiety is a feeling. So I will say I feel anxious. Instead, I try to use those sorts of words if I feel this, instead of I am this, or so I am anxious, I feel anxious, and then I really tune into where that is in my body. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, this is what I've been working on with my therapist. If when I was saying I have anxiety, I was then becoming my anxiety. So then I didn't have an identity separate, which is when it become very like damaging for me. But also in the way I speak about my body, I really struggle with the way I look. I'll be very honest, and that causes a lot of my anxiety. And even the way I behave, like if I'm in a group setting, I get very anxious of like, are they judging me? What are people thinking of me? Am I coming across well? I'm so annoying. Erin, shut up. Shut up, Erin. Stop saying that. I try not to do that, and I speak kind of myself after being around people as well. I find those voices are heightened. So I will say things like, doesn't matter if they found you annoying. They probably didn't. And so what, you said that? What's so bad about saying that? You didn't hurt anyone. And I'll say things like, no, I love the way I look. Even if I don't feel it. I look at myself in the mirror and I tell myself I'm beautiful. I even looking at the parts of myself I hate. So like across my stomach, especially when I'm bloated, I feel so uncomfortable in my body. I'm in pain, but also looking at my body, I do often, when I'm bloated, look pregnant, and I find that really difficult. But I just look at myself and I'm like, I'm beautiful no matter what. Being bloated doesn't change my value. It doesn't change the way I look. And even when I'm not bloated, I still feel sometimes uncomfortable with my body. So by speaking kind to myself, I often find that it calms any anxiety. And even when I'm having anxiety, I just speak to myself. I try and talk it through with myself. I'm not like, why are you feeling anxious? Stop that. You're being so annoying. Like, I don't punish myself for that. I'm like, okay, well, let's talk through this together. Let's work through this together. Like, we don't need to feel those things, but if you're feeling those things, that is okay. And I'm going to accept that, and I'm going to accept you for feeling like... I speak to myself as though I would speak to somebody else going through that, because I would never, if somebody was having a panic attack, look in their face and go, get a grip. Yet I would do that internally to myself all the time. And that isn't beneficial. It would just make me more anxious. So speak kind to yourself, say your affirmations every morning, every evening, do all of that stuff, because it will help you long term. Because honestly, by telling yourself, I'm confident, I'm brave, I'm more than capable of stepping out my comfort zone, people like me, I'm a good human being. If you tell yourself all of those things, over time it does sink in. It then weighs more than just a pinch of salt. Because at the start it's just like, ugh, I'm unbearable saying this stuff to myself. But it works. Hot girl walks are my saving grace. And to be fair, I sometimes listen to her podcast on the hot girl walk. My tea has gone warm where I couldn't reach it because of Albie. I stick on a good podcast, whether that is self-help or a funny podcast. It depends what mood I'm in. So if I'm really, really struggling with anxiety, I will put on a funny podcast because it completely distracts me. But if I just feel like I need a breather, but to be fair, I go on hot girl walks every day, even when I'm feeling good. It's just something that I desperately try to keep up with. And then I'll listen to a more self-help podcast. I love a self-help podcast, but if I'm feeling anxious, they just make me more anxious. So my favourite podcasts are Parenting Hell, Happy Hour, Newlyweds, Here for the Crack with Emma Neal. I love like the Grow with Zoe podcast, Wednesdays We Drink Wine, High Low with Emrata. Now, I was never really a fan of Emrata, I'm not sure why. Obviously Saving Grace, but I tend to watch her podcast. Same with Not My Bag, also love that, but I tend to watch that. Inside Anna's Mind, actually, I've listened to a few episodes of. Note to Self is a great podcast. So yeah, I'm kind of always looking, Date Yourself Instead, great. Try Not to Care, great. I'm definitely and again, Diary of a CEO I watch, I don't listen to, but I'm such a podcast girly now, and I will go for a walk just to listen to a new episode of a podcast. I try and put my big headphones on so it zones out any other sounds. I wear really comfortable clothes. I often go out looking horrific, like I wear like pajamas out, I don't really care, and I'll just go for a walk and I'll just completely switch off, not even like I'll smile at people, and I even sometimes just turn the podcast off and listen to the birds and like really sit with nature. And that sounds mental, I know, like I have hugged a tree. I don't know how people are going to feel about that. If I walk past a tree, I'll like put my hand on it and like feel its energy. That's exposing myself, but I have found it a very grounding experience when I felt really anxious, just to hug a tree and like sit with the tree. Please don't judge me, honestly, I'd 10 out of 10 recommend. But yeah, so I find that very grounding if I'm feeling really anxious, because sometimes I can't even listen to anything because I'm just like, it's too much noise. So I just turn everything off and I just breathe and I sit with nature. You don't need to be a girl to go on a hot girl walk. My next one, and this sounds so basic, but showering and moisturising, and those two specifically. First thing that goes if I'm not feeling very mentally well is showering, and I think I've been known to go over a week without showering. But if I keep regular with my showers, and more importantly the moisturising afterwards, I feel so much better in myself. And if I can keep on top of that, I can normally keep on top of my anxiety. Baths don't do for me what a shower does. Now, I love a bath, but it doesn't feel as cleansing and restoring and refreshing and revitalising, that's the word, as a shower does. I also have gotten into cold showers recently. At the end of the shower, I'll put it on full cold and I'll just stand under there for a couple of minutes and then turn it off and get out. And I found that really like, woo! It puts the wind through your butt. I don't know what it does, but it does make me feel very good. But yeah, showering and moisturising is like so key. I find moisturising just makes me feel like I've done really intense self-care, even though I haven't. But don't get me wrong, I love a face mask, I love an eye mask, love like really taking time for myself, but that is a once in a 6 month process for me, which might be bad, but I just don't find that does the self-care for me that something else would. So I think for me, moisturising is a very quick way to get that fix. I find afterwards, I've done, like, if I do the face mask, I'm like, there's so much better things I could be doing. Like, I get bored of just sitting there with a face mask on. Yeah, I'm not one of those girls, but I am a quick jump in the shower, even if it's 15 minutes, and then moisturise afterwards. And it makes me feel really put together and really in control. I don't know why, and it seems to really help. So make sure you're keeping on top of your self-care in terms of your basic self-care. So I would recommend just starting off small. Because I often find people go, you're feeling sad and anxious and like you need a mental health day. Where do all this big list of things: face mask, foot mask, moisturiser, eye mask, meditate, read, bubble bath, then shower after the bubble bath, then go in for like a 5th bubble bath, like have a 10-step skincare routine. And I think if you're going from barely even being able to shower, that is going to feel like the biggest task in the world. So start small with small goals, and before you know it, it will become your normal routine. And it makes it so easy to stay on top of that basic need of cleansing yourself to feel good. This won't surprise you by the tree hugging comment, but meditating. This isn't something that I could do when I was really anxious. This is when you haven't had a panic attack for a week or so and you're feeling really good mentally, you're feeling quite strong mentally, you haven't had a severe anxiety episode in a while, you don't feel one coming on, and then you meditate. This has come into my life again recently. I used to love meditating, but when I was really anxious last year, it would just make me more anxious. It would make me a lot more stressed. It would mean I would think a lot more. It would make me focus on the negative thoughts, not the positive thoughts. So it wasn't beneficial to me at all. And it's extremely good to realise what's benefiting you and what's not when you're in a bad place. And if it's something that's not benefiting you, but you're trying to do it for the right reasons, just stop it. Don't force it. Start with small steps, baby steps. It's taken me a year to go a few weeks without a panic attack. Like, baby steps are where we're at. Baby steps are what we love to see. They're really, really important. Don't rush into anything. And I think for me, I tried meditating. I realised I'm not ready for this. I parked it on a bench. I've got it back up from the bench. And I'm loving it. So I think I'm in the right place for it now, because I'm definitely reconnecting with my spirituality again. I feel like I've got space in my mind for it. I feel like I'm ready to develop my mindfulness and my intention a lot more. I'm ready to feel more present. I actually think it's going to benefit me. I live still very much in the future, and I think it really helps to bring me into the present moment. I struggle with that because of my anxiety. I just use guided meditations on YouTube. I am thinking of purchasing Headspace because I need a guided I need still that background noise. I'm not sure if it's worth it. It's quite expensive now, isn't it? See, I had it when it was free and I did really like it, but then I deleted it, and then it's like it's got really popular. Like, this was back in like year 8, but it's 10 years ago, but it's got really popular again. I know that they charge now. And I'm not sure. I think I probably will buy it. I don't know if you can do a free trial. I'll have to see. Now, this might be controversial. Trash TV. It's my best friend when I'm feeling anxious. Like I said at the start of the episode, last week I spent most of the week binge watching reality TV, and there's nothing wrong. I think reality TV gets such a bad rep, and I think it is a bit mind-numbing. And you are just watching the same storyline in every show over and over again. But it's so good for me in terms of switching off. I can just watch it. I can zone out. I feel completely in another world. I don't need to think about anything. It doesn't stress me out. I'm not being reminded of world issues. It's just nice to have that escape. I'm always in my head. like I said to you, I'm trying to get more present. I'm trying to get more into my body because I live in my mind. I live in my head. I live with lots of voices. So to be able to switch those off, it's so important for me. So I am an avid reality TV watcher. Like, I watch an episode of reality TV pretty much every day. But it's my moment to just completely switch off. What I'm trying to say is, obviously that's not going to be the same for everyone, but even if it's something that is perceived as bad for you or perceived as not great, if it helps you switch off and escape your head and escape that feeling, indulge in it. Obviously don't become addicted to it or obsessed, or you can't rely on that as a crutch, but to give you a little bit of solace for just a couple of hours or less than, go for it, no matter what that looks like, what that is, as long as you're not hurting anybody or yourself. No news. So I do tune into the news because I like to keep up to date with the world. I think it's really important. However, I do not obsess. When my anxiety was at its worst, I was looking at the news every 5 minutes. My dad was getting texts. Let me see if I can find the text I would send to my dad. Like, they would know because they would get a text in the middle of the day and then I would just get like a call or a FaceTime. So like, I would send messages like, I have a feeling something happened. Is everything okay? And this is something they would get a lot. Like, can you call me please? What does this mean? I've seen this. What does that mean? Or they'd get screenshots of the news. I sent a screenshot of the news. I said, I'm scared. Are we going to die? Dad, what does this mean? Are we going to die? I sent a massive paragraph about Putin. You guys can come to live with me if London gets nuked. Are we going to die, do you think? Wait, is Ukraine winning? I have a feeling they're going to win. Do you think they'll attack us? I'm slightly scared. Like, now I'm reading it back, it makes no sense. But at the time, that made sense in my head, which is why that's a really long-winded way of proving to you that the news is really damaging for me. I think we live in a world where there's so much negativity and stress on everybody. And for me, limiting my stress is limiting my time spent on the news, because it's a real trigger for me. I'm in a place now where I can look at the news, have a brief idea of what's going on in the world, turn it off, not like take anything to heart or run with anything. But I would say 6 months, 7 months without looking at the news at all. The news would get turned off if it come on the TV and they were talking about something triggering for me. It was very much like I just hid from it because I had to, because I was too fragile to feed into that. I'm now not as fragile, so I now don't need to do that. But I still don't get consumed by it. I don't think it's good for anybody to be constantly consumed by the news. We're not supposed to be so aware of everything. I think it's extremely important to know about worldly issues in terms of global warming, what is going on in the world in terms of people struggling and how you can help them, and what we can do as individuals to make a change. Learning about things that we as individuals have no control over and cannot make a change about is pointless. It just spirals you, it stresses you out. I don't think anyone should get engrossed in it, but especially somebody who suffers from anxiety, because you'll just spiral, like your brain will just go a million miles an hour, which is what happened to me. The next one is an exciting one. It's fueling my body. Again, this is something I still struggle with slightly. Not as bad as I did. I don't know if I'm ready to make a podcast about my eating disorder, because I want to make a podcast where I'm in a place where I can give tips and advice, and I'm not in that place right now. But I find it easier to fight the voice. And guess what? When you eat more, you feel less anxious. It's revolutionary. One of the reasons my anxiety got so severe and debilitating is because I was barely fueling my body. So now we've started to fuel our body more. We've started to challenge not very nice thoughts, even though that takes time. I slowly have become less and less anxious and feel like I can take on the world a lot more easier. If fueling my body slips, my anxiety slips with it. When I think about how I felt with how anxious I was being, I then think, well, I don't want to get like that again. So what do I need to do? Fuel my body. This can be in lots of different ways. It can be in exciting ways. It can be in boring ways. I know some people love food. I am somebody, surprisingly, despite having an eating disorder, who loves food. I get a lot of enjoyment out of food, which is why my body decided to take it away from me. I love food. I get a lot of enjoyment out of food. I get a lot of enjoyment out of cooking food, learning about food, baking. I've always been very into knowing what I'm putting into my body and how my body works with that. I love food. Anything about food, I love it. Some people don't get enjoyment out of food, which is fine. You don't need to love food as much as I do, but it's still important that you fuel your body. If you don't get any enjoyment out of it, just make sure you're eating at least 3 square meals a day with a couple of snacks thrown in between, or like 3 big square meals or 3 square meals with 2 snacks, and you're drinking 2 litres of water just so you're able to run. You would never make a car drive with no petrol in it, because it wouldn't go. So why we think it's okay to drive around in our bodies without giving them the petrol is beyond me. We need to make sure our petrol tank is filled up so we can work as hard as we can, and we want to. So yeah, make sure you're fueling your body. If you get enjoyment out of food, great. Use it as an opportunity to think, this is me bettering my mental health and having fun. Amazing. And if you don't get enjoyment out of food, just think, this is a way for me to keep running, keep doing what I love doing. Eating this food is giving me the opportunity to do exactly what I want to do and what I enjoy. So food's a blessing. We're supposed to be having it. We're supposed to consume it. The next thing is something that I've been doing a lot more recently, and it's boundarying myself. I'm an empath. What you're giving out energetically and emotionally, I am consuming, I am taking on, and I am becoming. Being an empath means I get very drained socially, but it also means that I want to fix and help everyone, because I can feel your pain. I don't want you feeling that pain. I'm going to fix you from feeling that pain. When you are somebody who has an empathic nature, you need to be so careful about boundarying yourself, because you become drained so easily, and it was making my anxiety so much worse for such a long time. I now have my boundaries up. I tell people my boundaries, and it's uncomfortable. I have to say, look, I don't need to deal with this. I can't deal with this. I want to be there for you, but right now I can't give you what you need, and it's just going to damage both of us. Let me help you in other ways. I'm better at doing that with my parents than I am with anybody else. I am better at saying to them, look, I'm really sorry, this is me putting my boundaries in place. I can't do this right now. And I think they're learning to cope with it. With people I struggle to communicate that with, I just shut myself off from them for a couple of weeks. I recharge, go back out there. I think I'm getting better at learning how to tell people my boundaries, but I also struggle with that quite a lot. I think not learning you can't fix everyone is the first step, and I can't fix every problem. I also am very fortunate I've got people in my life that respect me, and we respect each other, and there's a mutual respect there, because if they said to me, I'm really struggling today, I just can't deal with that, I would respect that and back off. Vice versa, I've also got people who are very aware of my mental health difficulties and how I have had to start boundarying myself. So I'm very, very lucky, and I know that, and I know I'm very privileged to have that opportunity to say, enough's enough. Boundarying also comes from who I spend my time with. My circle is tiny. I've protected my peace a little too much, I'll be honest, but I don't share my energy and my time and my space with anybody. I've got my best friend Kira, I've got a couple of other friends, but people will not get a response from me for a week, and that feels So, and it is rude, I'll be honest, it's rude. But I get emotionally drained and mentally drained so quickly that even responding to a message is like tipping me over the edge. So anything to keep myself from teetering over being too emotionally tired or emotionally drained. If it means that a message doesn't get responded to for a week, unfortunately that's the case. In the past I'd be beating myself up about that, and hopefully one day I can be at a place where I can start looking after everyone else mentally, but I can't do that right now. I'm not mentally strong enough, and you need to admit that to yourself, that I wouldn't be helpful. If I was doing that, I'd be doing it for the wrong reasons and I wouldn't be helpful. So you just need to learn your social battery and be really kind. This is, again, talking kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. You wouldn't beat anyone else up for that, so don't beat yourself up for it. I hope I explained that well. Number 9 is reading. Reading is my own little escape. I love reading. I'm currently reading Malibu Rising. I've been reading it for a while, but I'm so obsessed with it. It's such a good book. I think it's a 10 out of 10 book. Would recommend. And reading any book, it's just such an escape, similar to the reality TV, but I feel like I'm actually like itching my brain. Like, I'm using my brain, but also completely dissociating from the real world. So yeah, reading's such a little escape for me. Anything that, again, can give my mind a rest from racing and thinking a million one things at once, we will do. Number 10 is for when you are starting to feel more stronger mentally and you feel less anxious and you feel like you can do your everyday life without getting anxious or overwhelmed. And it's pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. I'm now at a stage where I've started to do this a lot more, and I've found benefits from it so much. I did it just this weekend. Last week I was supposed to go to a spiritualist church, and I think because I was so anxious about it, we kind of just like put it into the back of our minds and got busy doing something else. We didn't end up going, and I was so relieved but also so disappointed because I really wanted to go, and I was just like, I really wanted to go, but I got so anxious that I just couldn't think of anything worse than going. And then I went this week and it was completely out of my comfort zone. Nothing I've ever done before. Something I've always wanted to do but never felt like I could. The idea made me so anxious. But being there was the most healing and incredible thing. I come out, me and Mum are going to go again. We're going to go regularly. And it was just amazing. Like, it was so amazing. I had to push myself out of my comfort zone to go. And by doing that, I feel so confident. I'm going to a tarot reading in a couple of weeks, and I feel more than okay about going to that. I feel really excited. I don't feel nervous anymore. So even if it's just going to the shops by yourself or walking to the end of the road by yourself, by doing little things that push yourself out your comfort zone, they're giving you a little bit of faith in yourself, a little bit of confidence. They're showing you that you are capable. And then the minute that you push yourself out your comfort zone and that becomes normal, you can push yourself out your comfort zone again. And you can keep doing it till you're as far out your comfort zone as you want to go. You never need to go more than you want to. So I know I want to go travelling. I've always wanted to go travelling. That is so far out of my comfort zone, but nobody's telling me to go that far out, if that makes sense. Like, if you being out your comfort zone is going to the shops and you're more than happy with your life by that being out of your comfort zone, that's amazing. But I would never hold a gun to your head and say, go travelling by yourself. But because that's something I want to do, I just need to push myself a little bit harder out my comfort zone. But honestly, it's such a rewarding thing, and it has helped my anxiety the most out of everything I've done. Pushing myself out my comfort zone, even with food. Like, even with food that I'm eating. Because I'm very adventurous with what I eat. However, my eating disorder stops me in terms of the very basic things like cake and sugared syrups and like takeaways and stuff like that. So for me with food, I'm more than happy to have like a whole squid in a restaurant. That isn't out of my comfort zone. But eating a slice of cake is, if that makes sense. So for me, even eating a slice of cake is like, that's such a rewarding experience. It's terrifying. But then afterwards, I'm like, I did that. I could do that easily. Oh, of course I could. But you know what I mean? Like, just write a list of things about your comfort zone that are very, very, very reachable. And I promise you, when you feel ready, just do it. Your mind will be telling you not to, but you will know when you're ready. You'll know when it's just your anxiety talking and not your body going, you're not ready for this. It helps to do that with people as well. I find that if I'm with somebody, it does help. And then slowly I'll build up to doing it by myself. And then finally, being surrounded by the right people. This is very similar to boundary myself, but making sure I'm surrounded by people that make me feel confident, that make me feel loved, that make me feel valued, has been the key to my recovery and me continuing to recover. It's meant that there's no judgment from anybody but myself. And that helps massively. It takes the pressure off me. It makes me feel like I'm not stupid, like I'm not undervalued, like it makes me feel valued. It makes me feel like my thoughts, even though they might be irrational, they're not stupid and I shouldn't be embarrassed by them. So yeah, make sure you're surrounded by good people that aren't fueling your anxious thoughts or your anxious behaviours, but are helping you heal, but also not putting pressure on yourself. And I know, again, that's easier said than done, but I do think it's extremely important that you are surrounded by good people. So that is my main tips of how I manage my anxiety. I hope that you can take something from this episode. I found it very insightful to sit down and make a list, because I don't think I realised how much I was actually doing that supported my continual recovery of my anxiety. And it's actually quite crazy that your mind and your body creates those coping mechanisms along the way to get you through and to help push you. I guess we're moving on to 3 gratitudes. My first gratitude is the fact that Albie moved, so I'm in a more comfortable position. My second gratitude is the fact that it's a new moon tomorrow. I feel very I love the new moon energy. I absolutely bloody love a new moon energy, and I've already started to feel that now. So I'm very grateful for that. It makes me feel like I can do anything. It makes me really confident. I think it's in Leo as well, which would make so much more sense. I'm also grateful for the fact that Albie has not barked once this whole podcast. And normally he does show off when I film a podcast. So I'm very grateful for that, because my dad's playing golf, so I have Albie. And my hopes for the future is I'm seeing Kira tomorrow, so I hope that we have a fun time, because I haven't seen her in ages. But I want to thank you all so much for listening, watching on Spotify or YouTube. I'm absolutely sweating. This room is so hot, so I'm going to go down and get myself a drink. But yeah, I hope you've take something from this, and I'll see you all very soon.